and list slicing the list, how to remove or how to extract a particular elements of the list, just like your string slicing. Okay, we are going to do some extraction in list and list methods. We have a couple of methods, just like in your string you had so many methods, right? Like dot upper, dot lower, dot title, dot methods, right? Dot notations. Likewise, we have so many methods in list, and deleting the elements in the list. We have a list and how to remove a particular element from the list or group of elements from the list and so on. List and functions. Okay, we have couple of functions and also we can derive our own functions which can be operated using list as an input argument. Okay, you define a function, pass a list to that function, and that function will perform the task which has been designed. Okay, a sole purpose of a function. So now let us go through the individual agenda today. The first one is operators. So we shall see how the operators can be used with the list, like plus and the multiplication here. Operators like plus and multiplication. So if I define a list, A is equal to some real integers and B equal to another list. So now I could say C equal to A plus B. So I can use this plus operator which concatenates. Understand what it does? It concatenates these two strings A and B. Simple, right? So basically plus operator is used to concatenate. Okay. So we'll concatenate two lists. Similarly, I can use the star operator, that is a multiplication operator. Say for example, if I want to generate a number of zeros, this is a list of zeros. List is enclosed in a square bracket into 4. So it would give me 4 zeros in a list. Likewise, I can also say 1, 2, 3, star 3. So here star 3 simply duplicates the list n number of times. How many number of times here? It is 3 times. So it simply duplicates 3 times. The list, whatever list been used with the multiple operator, the number defines the number of times it is repeated. So it repeats 3 times here. In the second example, it repeats in 3 times. In the first example, it repeats 4 times. So far we have only these 2 operators. For your syllabus, you may explore more, like we have different operators which can be used. There are so many logical operators. There are some Boolean operators which can be used with the list that can be explored while taking up some real-time applications or use cases. Correct? Okay. So now after looking into plus and star operators, the next is slicing. String slicing. So what do you mean by slicing? So slicing is nothing but you're trying to remove or omit a particular value or an element from the list. So it is quite usual, like we have already done how to slice a string or how to read individual word of the string. So very similar to that, I would define a list called T which is a string, which is a list of characters A to F, right? So now I'll be using the indexes, correct? I'll be using the indexes just like what you did for your string. So I'll be using the indexes in order to fetch. So what is the answer for this now? Can anybody tell what would be the answer for T of 1:3?
B, comma C.
Good. So 1, this is a 0th index. This is the offset for any index value. 0, this is 1 and 2 and 3, right? 3 is excluded in a string or in an index. So if I run this program, I would slice the string which is required, B comma C, using the indexes, correct? Using the indexes. Similarly, if I say T of 0, sorry, is to 4, colon 4. What do you mean by colon? All elements in the list T till 4, but not 4th element. This is 0th, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It excludes E, right? So till 4th index, all the elements of the list. So till 4th, all the elements of the list. Likewise, if I say T of 3 colon, so what is the answer? T of 3 colon 0, 1, 2, 3. This includes the 3rd index and all the elements of T. So it is D, E, F. Okay, so this is how you try to remove the elements from the list. See, now I can also use a mutable option here. See, if I simply say T of all, so I would get all the elements. It is as good as reading all the elements inside the list. So now I can perform using this slicing operations, right? I can perform using the slicing operations to replace the elements, number of elements, multiple elements in the list. So what I need to do, I just need to say T of, so if I say T of 1 to 3, okay, 1:3. So what do you mean by T of 1:3? So these values, right? These two values, correct? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now if I say T of 1:3 is equal to, again, with some other element, say X comma Y. I'm just trying to remove these two elements and assign the new elements. It is as good as telling T of 1 is equal to X, T of 2 is equal to Y, and T of 3 it is excluded, right? So suppose if you give Z, believing that there are 3 elements which is getting replaced inside the list T, so it is wrong. So it can, is it replaced? Let me see what happened to T. Yeah, it has been replaced. Yeah, it is replaced. Even I am surprised. Yeah, because here from 1:3, it should get an index bound error, but it is getting replaced. How is it possible? Now, this is really an amazing stuff which we have discovered today. Let me just check with another term. Yeah, it is being replaced. It has been appended. Sorry. Can you observe? Guys, can you observe this? It has been extended. It's not been replaced. If you want to replace, you have to be sure with, one second, just let me take the T first because the T values has been changed. Let me put it here. If I want to replace only 2 elements, otherwise it will be extended. Yeah, see, now it has been replaced. B and C has been replaced by X and Y by targeting 1 and 3 values. If I say Z, now this is a new discovery here which has been made. See, I've just replaced this B and C by X and Y. But if I unknowingly had given this Z value, that means it will simply add the elements to your T. See here, A replaced by XY and the Z is the element which has simply been used as an extension to this list, and the remaining DEF elements. So this even I was not knowing here. Okay. So for you people, you have this stuff, like if you want to replace some elements of the list. See, I am repeating again, replace, not adding more number of elements. So it damages the length of the list. So here I had a length as 6. When I say Z, the length is altered. Remember, the length is altered, but I want to replace. So if I want to replace using the index values, you can replace the elements of the list without actually altering what? The length of the list. Okay. So now we shall come to the list methods. As I've said, list methods, so that I can directly operate. So Python provides many methods that can operate directly on the list. For example, append. Okay. For example, append. Here I'll take an example of append. If I have a list T is equal to A, B, C. Now if I say T dot append, T dot append. So what I want to append, see, always methods, right? Any methods in Python can be called using a common brackets. T dot append a string, say D. And now check what happened to T. You see now the T, the original list was ABC. Now we have appended the element. So append adds a new element to the list. Correct? Append add the new element to the list. Let us see what happens if I say A, B, C, D, E. See? Append take exactly one argument. So I cannot give more than one arguments. I can give only one argument as an input argument. So here basically append, I could say appending the element one at a time. It adds a new element to the end of the list. The end of the list one at a time. Right? So it appends a new element to the end of the list one at a time. So what I want to do, if I want to add more number of elements at a time, so you can use extend. I can use what? Maybe a couple of them might have already used this in the previous example, in the previous discussion. One of your friend Rakshit has used this append extend operations, the methods, in his project. Suppose now if I say T1 is equal to, I have a list ABC and I have another list T2 is equal to D and E. Okay. So if I use T1 dot extend T2, T1 dot extend T2. So what happens to T1? What happens to T1? Multiple elements has been concatenated with respect to T1. So this is T1 now. T1, could you see T1 is altered? Correct? T1 is altered. T2 is, what happened to T2? T2 is unaltered. T2 is unaltered. Is it okay? This example leaves out T2 unmodified. Correct? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Can you just try to relate with the object-oriented concepts here? Have you heard about object-oriented programming? Most of us.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now here, for with respect to the list, whenever you say list, okay, it is understood as an instance to the Python package. Correct? It is understand as the instance. Instance is nothing but an object. Instance is nothing but an object. Right? So now, so what do you mean by instance? What do you mean by object? We shall discuss this in module 4 in detail.
Sir,
Just for the sake of example, if I have created, yeah?
your screen has a lag.
Oh, screen is, yeah. 1 second. Is it lagging?
Yeah, sir. From that time it's lagging.
Okay, is it visible, guys, now?
Yes, sir.
Is it lagging? Hope not.
You type something, sir, then you can get me. Yeah, proper.
Okay, fine. So I hope you understood this extend concept.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, in what is the difference between append and extend, sir? So,
Yeah.
for append, can't we now T1 and T2 are two lists, no, sir? So can't we T1 dot append of T2? Can't we do that, sir?
No, dear, no. See here, T1 dot append of T2 you cannot do.
In append, we can only give single elements.
Exactly. It is mostly used for adding a new element to the end of a list one at a time. We try to do it, right? See here, I try to do pass two arguments here, and it was not possible because append takes exactly one argument. Okay. So let us just try to verify what happens if t dot append with t2. Here, if I try to replace it by append, see here, it is added as one single element, not d and e as a separate element. Hello?
Got it, sir. Got it. Huh. Yes, sir.
It is again another list. It is a nested list. So this T2 is understood as a nested list here, but it is not an element of this entire list. If you want to add element by element, single individual element, you can use it as append. Otherwise, you can use it as extend. If you want to add more elements to this list. But one thing you need to observe here, T1 is modified, but T2 is unmodified. T2 is left unmodified.
Yes, sir. Got it.
Likewise, we also have sort. We also have a sort method to sort the elements inside the list. This would be very useful for us in future. Okay, this would be very useful. Suppose if I have a list which is not sorted, and if I use t dot sort, okay, t dot sort, Need not to give any input argument inside. Why? Because you are directly operating it on T and dot sort. Later we shall see what are the input arguments that I can give here, whether an ascending or descending and so on, right? So that we can discuss later. So right now T dot sort, it directly sorts the list of elements inside the T, and let us see what happens if I use T dot sort. It will be sorted in an alphabetical order. So if you say, if you have modified the list, okay, suppose if I say T is equal to the new T, say for example, new underscore T is equal to T dot sort, right? T dot sort, then you could see print new underscore T. What happens? You just check, it cannot be displayed. Here new underscore T is nothing, so it does not carry any variable. So it would be little bit disappointed because I cannot assign the values of methods to any variable here. Why? Because T is been already modified, because I have those elements or variables inside the T. You cannot say assign this methods. Okay, most list methods are void if you try to assign it to some variable after doing some operations. Okay, next, remember this is fine, but this is not fine. If I say print T, this is not fine. Most of the list methods, if assigned to some variable, gives void, okay, or none type data values, or none type data values. So next we shall see deleting the elements. So what all we have discussed today, we had come across operators, two operators. You can explore more, and then methods like append and extend, and then sort, and then deleting elements. How do I delete elements in the list? There are several ways. Understand, there are several ways. If I have the list of elements T is equal to A, B, C, D, E, how do you delete B now? Just trying to do some brainstorming here. I can delete element B if I know I want to delete an element B. If I priorly know what is that element or what is the value of that element, I can delete it, right? Or else I can delete the element with its index. So where is B here? B here is at, this is at 0th position, this is at first position, and this is at second position. So if I know the indexes, of the list, I could delete it. So how to delete? If I know the index value, I can delete it. So there are several ways to delete elements from a list. The first one, if you know the index value of the element, right? If you know the index value of the element, the first thing is I would say I would use pop command here. So there are different methods. The first one is pop command. X is equal to T dot pop. Index means always it is here. This is a function, right? T dot pop of 1. So this removes the B element from the T, but it assigns the removed element to X. This is the interesting thing. Pop modifies the list, but returns the element that was removed. Understand? Pop modifies the list. If I don't use X, no problem.
Pop
If
of
I
one.
say, pardon?
Sir, what happens if you just give T dot pop of one? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm giving it. I've already given.
Yeah. came now.
So I'm just trying to assign it to some variable. That's it. Why? Because you are getting, it's a truthful function. You are getting some values from that function or a method. It can be assigned to some variable. Okay. So here, this would return the removed element. So pop modifies the list and returns the element which has been removed. Here I can see the modified list. If I say type T, B has been removed. See here, B has been removed. Correct? Otherwise, I could assign it to x is equal to T dot pop just in order to suppress the result. That's it. It will suppress the result. Nothing else. Unless I say print, it will not pop up. So if I remove this, it would pop up. I have to take it to, I have to delete it. Otherwise, the last would always be printed first. Okay. Now T dot pop. So understand pop operation. It modifies the list and returns the element that was removed. If you don't provide an index, suppose if I don't know what is the index, it deletes and returns the last element. So if I don't provide this, see, understand pop, if you know the index, it will remove the particular index. Otherwise, it removes, by default, it would be the last index. Understand? If no input argument, if no input index here, it removes.
Sir,
Yeah.
inside the T dot pop thing, can you give the particular element as the argument, like T dot pop?
No. Pop basically takes index as an input.
Okay.
If I say some element, it would say it won't find the index. See here, it can be interpreted as an integer only. Index values are in integer values.
Yes.
I cannot give string. If you don't give anything, fine. That is fine because it removes the last element always. But it expects what? An integer value. I cannot give 1.5 also. Here, it got float. It's expecting an integer argument.
Yes, sir.
I cannot give 10 also. Why? Because there is no 10th element here. Index exceeds out of range. So it should within the range. Yeah, if you have any question?
No, sir.
Okay, good. So now let us see if you don't need the removed value. If I don't want this removed value, why? Because this pop always simply will keep giving you the popped items, removed items from the list. So if I don't want this removed item, okay, I don't want. Don't want removed items, I can use del operator. Okay, use del operator or method. How do I use it? I say t is equal to, if I have this t is equal to ABCDE, and now if I say del space, okay, understand del space, again t of 1. See here, the way I have represented this t of 1 is different from this pop function. Functions are always with respect to the common brackets. Indexes are always with respect to the square brackets. So t of 1 refers to the list t and the element b. del is the operator which I am using it on t of 1, and now directly it will be removed. B will be removed. See here? But I cannot store this here. This would be an improper syntax. I cannot do this. X is equal to del of t of 1. This is an improper syntax. Okay. So now you could see this operator is removed, and of course I cannot preserve this element which has been removed. Correct? Which has been removed. I cannot preserve it here. Similarly, these are the two operators, these are the two methods. I can use pop with an index value, deleting elements, knowing index, knowing the index. Whereas if I don't know the index, suppose if I do not have any idea like where it appears, in which position it appears, do not know the index, but I want to remove a particular element, but I know what element I should remove. I don't like B, say for example, in the list, but I don't know the index of that element B, right? Inside this list, I don't know this B where it lies because it's a huge list. You have nearly thousands of characters inside a list, and if I want to remove a particular element, say a stop words in a string, a stop words in a list, you have identified a stop words like comma, exclamatory mark, not, is, that, then. See, these words need to be removed. I know the words, but I don't know the index of those words where it comes inside the list. So I can use remove. Okay, I can use remove method. How to use it? So I can simply say t dot remove of give b, right? If I give b, it would be understood as a variable. So give a string b. Now check what happened to t. So t, I have removed the element. If I know the element, if I don't know the index, fine, use remove. I can define this as a string outside, let's say str s is equal to a string called b, then you pass this as an argument, fine, no problem. All are same. Or directly give b. Let us just try giving c. Again, see, one argument. It takes only one argument at a time. So how to remove multiple? So you can use string slicing. It depends on your requirement. You can always use string slicing. So I don't want B and C. Say a string of T 2 to 3, 1 to 2 has been removed, right? You can do it, no problem. So if you want to use remove more than one element, as I said, if you want an example, you can just take this as an example. I can use delete operator here, delete operator here. Okay, very similar to this dl, and see what happens with respect to t. Only a and f has been retained from 1 to 5, and b to e it has been removed. Right? So you cannot selectively remove. If you want to selectively remove, like say the odd index values has to be removed from 0, 0, 1, 3. So you have to put it in a loop, right? Put it in a loop and use this remove option. Use this delete option, right? Because this 1, 3, 5, this has to change. This has to iterate. This index value has to iterate. You can try out different situations. Okay, you can try out different possibilities using the for loop or an iterative loop always. Okay. So this was about as usual the slice here selects all the elements from 1 up to 5, but it excludes the last value. Okay. Yeah. So next we shall go to list and function. This is pretty interesting, where things will be little bit what you say, like application related. So I have list and functions. I have different functions which can be performed using list. Suppose if I have a list of numbers, some random numbers which are taken, and if I want to calculate the length of this list, I can use length function, length of numbers 6. I can assign it or print it, or I can use it for any situation, I can say max of nums to find the maximum value in the given list. I can say max. I can say min. Okay. Let me carry this example because it's going out of vision now. Okay. So min is 3, max is 74. If I want to print the sum value, I could do it. I could do sum of, see, sum gives you what? The sum of all the elements inside the list. The sum of all elements inside the list. What to do if I want to calculate an average? Can anybody tell how to calculate an average of a given list of elements using the functions? Yeah. Sum of nums divided by length of nums. Okay. So you get an average. Correct. So I can use this in order to find the sum and the length, and you have so many other functions as well. So most of the times the sum function will be used and it works when the list of elements are numbers. Be careful. Whereas the other functions, max, length, it's good with strings and other types of data. And yeah, of course, it can be comparable. The list of elements can be comparable. I can just try to say sort this. I can use this sort, right? Sort dot nums or sort of nums. I can also use sort. I can also use different operations, methods on it, just like this. T dot sort, I can use nums dot sort also. Okay. So now, as I have already told, can we rewrite an earlier program that computed the average of list of numbers? Here, what you need to do, you have to prompt user. See here, you have to prompt user to give the list, to generate the list of numbers using a list and compute the average. See here, I'll write a program to compute the average of a list of numbers entered by the user. Okay, entered by the user. Correct? So how to do it? How to do it without using a function and how to do it with using the function. Two different types of programs you can write. First, guys, can you just tell how to write in the first case without using functions? Be careful, in the exam also will be asked in a very similar fashion, without using functions. I'll give you 5 minutes of time, okay, so that you have to prompt user to give 5 or 6 numbers, and you have to make sure that user has stopped giving or has not intended to give any number so far, right? And you have to calculate the average of the given numbers. I'll give you 5 minutes, guys. If you find the answer, just take a screenshot and just put it on the chat window. Just take a screenshot and put it on a chat window. Swayambhu is present. Shreyas R. Swayambhu and Shreyas R. So two are absent today. Vivek. Vivek SR. So three. And these guys are been regular in absent. So Swayambhu is absent. Vivek SR. And Shreyas. Guys, just let me know if they are not well or something like that. Just ask them, or somehow just ask them to convey the message to me so that I can be marked as permission from after the prior approval of HOD and your class teacher. Yeah, anybody got the answer? No answers?
1 minute, sir.
Okay, guys, I think I waited for a long time for a simple program. So what I do, I just want user to give input. So I would put it in a while loop, while true. So this loop is always true unless user say it has done. Unless user say it has done. So someone has posted here list dot append. Okay, fine. He has used append here, and yeah, fine. So here I could use while loop here. While sometimes they might ask you in a very particular way, like users should keep giving the input of keep entering the number and then say break when you type done. In this situation, if the given input value is equal to the string done, it will break the loop. So after breaking what I need to do, so here the value, every time the user has given some input value, it will be in a string. So if you have not converted it to a type, if I have not converted it to a type float, so it will be still a string. So if this is false, so this will not get executed. This line is false. Shall increment this count. Count is equal to count plus 1. And then I say, I'll come out of the while loop and I say average is equal to total by count and use some print statements and do the average. Print the average here. If I try to run this program, so it prompts user to give multiple value, enter 3, enter 5 until you say done. So it keeps asking user.
Sir,
Yeah.
please could you zoom out?
So I repeat, I have used while loop here. So this is always true. While true is always true here. I not used any other statements. So input is equal to input of enter a number. So it is prompting user to enter a number. And this while loop will break if user has entered a string called done. So this while loop will break. I have used break statement here. Since the input of any value been given by user is considered as a string, I would convert it to a float type. I use it as float of input. And I assign it to a variable called value. So I have declared two variables, total and count. So whenever the user gives an input, it will be added to a value. Total is equal to total plus value. And I increment the count is equal to count plus 1. Why? Because I want to keep a track of how many numbers user has given. And I would simply say total by count outside the while loop. Okay. See here I have given some instances here. I have entered a number 2, 3, 5, 7. If I have entered done, that means it will break and you will get an average of the given numbers. Okay. So again I'll try this. Run this program. It is asking for a user to prompt a number 25, put an enter. It is still in a while loop. 20, still in a while loop. 15, still in a while loop. Now if I say done, it is out of the loop. It's out of the loop. And it computes, total is already computed inside the while loop. and count. I given 3 elements, so count would be 3, and I would get 95 divided by 3. It is 31.66. Okay. Suppose if I want to use the function and append method, I've strictly told that you should not use any methods here. But one of your friend has used list.append in the chat window as an answer, and the other one has, yeah, both of them have used append. Yeah, all 3 of them have used append. But I have not used append here. Okay, so without using functions. Now with using functions, so it's very simple. I copy down the same program. Okay, I'll do some alterations. Okay, just to avoid confusion, let me write afresh. So I would create an empty list first. Okay, I would create an empty list. How do you create an empty list? NUM-list is equal to, this is a function where you can create an empty list. Now I use the same command. Why? Because this is working fine. This looks fine to me. This looks fine to me. So I would copy down the same program, and then I'll be using. Yeah, this is also required. Value is equal to.
Sir, list means we should use square brackets, no, sir. But in the first line, you've used list of like those comma brackets, curved brackets.
See, here this is a function. Okay, this is a function. I'm not using a square bracket here. Why? Because I cannot call a function using a square bracket. I have not seen any function like this. See here, input is a function. It uses what? Common brackets. Don't get confused with, okay, list is denoted, list, num list, the same num list. I could create a list is equal to 1, 2, 3 like this. Okay. But if I want to create an empty list, so I could use a function called list of without passing any input argument. I can simply use list and call it as an empty list here inside. So this part is fine. And now I would use value. Okay, I would use value as it is, but because it is giving me the string, so I would use it as a float. Float of INP, right? Float of INP. Yeah, now here comes your method. Now I would simply say num list dot append. Okay, num list dot append with a value. This is enough, because I just want to ask user to enter couple of numbers, say 2, 3, 4, 5, and then say done. I'm done entering the numbers. Yeah, that's it. So now what is num list here? Could you just type num list here? You would have the list of elements which are typed, and then I can use the functions here. What are the functions? To calculate the average. Average is equal to sum of num list divided by length of num list, and then simply say print average is equal to average of. Correct? Is it okay? Now could see 2, 4, 5, then say done. I would get an average. Why? Because I've just simply created a list here by using these commands, where user is creating the list or depending on his intentions, right? Here there is no restriction to give a particular elements as a list or a particular numbers as a list. You can create this while loop The user is giving the list and then you have calculated the average. Suppose while loop here, while loop I can if you just try to correlate to the real-time situation where a censored data is coming, to your program. So this is an infinite loop. Okay, so this is an infinite loop, and here the values has been stored in the num list. Correct? Here all the values are stored in the num list. Till when? Till the censored data is off. Till the censored data is made switched off, or there is no data from the sensor. So likewise, I can calculate average, I can calculate mean, standard deviation, a variance, and I can use that data, the sensor data, to do some analysis like whether a particular room, it may be a room temperature, or it may be a complete the forecast of a particular day, how it was on Saturday, what will be on Sunday, what will be on Monday. So I can try to do weather forecasting if I have the values of the sensor data. Say it can be a humidity data, or it can be a light intensity, or it can be a temperature. So I can have all these three different types of data, and I can try to I can use this as a list of elements or list of data and try to do some forecasting using some operations or using some functions. I can try to predict what would be the weather if I have this kind of sequence of or series of data. Okay, so here I am just using or prompting the user to give n number of input and create a list. Once I have created a list, I have used sum of list divided by length of list, which gives me an average. So these are two simple programs. Here I have used using functions. Okay, using functions. There in the previous program I have absolutely not used any functions on the list. Understand? You may say like, sorry, I have used float. You may use input. No, I have not used functions on the list like dot end, sum, length. The others are fine, the simple keywords or simple functions. But using functions of list without using functions of list. So this might be an appropriate word for function and this program. Okay, I guess no doubts with this session. So if no doubts, we shall continue with the list and strings in my next class. So again, I brief, we make an empty list before the loop starts, and then each time in the while loop a number is given which is appended to the list, and at the end of the program we say done, and then it simply counts the sum as well as the length, giving an average. Okay, I hope no doubt. In the next class we shall discuss about list and strings. Okay, thank you guys, and whatever the programs been given by the students, by your friends, most of them have used functions. So kindly read the questions carefully. Functions on the list, you should not use append because it is a function of a list. Okay, so with and without using functions, be careful. Okay. Thank you guys. Thank you for attending this session. Have a nice day, great weekend. Stay safe, stay home, be healthy.
Thank you, sir.